From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is the Midday Report on LALATE.
It's a big midday here on LALATE, live from Santa Monica with your first stimulus check update of 2021. In this recording, we'll go over the incredible breaking news as a RECON deal done, and the RECON is heading to a vote. What's happening? The breaking news at noontime. Then a vote is set. When? We'll see shortly. As Nancy Pelosi says that the vote on the RECON could be happening by the end of the week. The latest details in this recording. The price is $1.75, and the programs are coming back in with a historic program announced less than 24 hours ago. Those details in this big recording. Then we'll be turning to the student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven by executive order. That's happening as well. And then we turn to the big items of this stimulus, which comes right after your COLA raise as we go into a big noontime. The exciting details is that we have a vote, we have a bill, we have a potential bill, we have the workings of negotiations continuing. How can you do all the same things at the same time? Very convoluted, very confusing, but I'll make it clear as we go into a big noontime, and which starts right now. Hey, good noontime, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day and hope the weather is good where you are. A deal has happened in that RECON, and a vote is happening by the end of the week. How did this turn around so quickly? Well, I'll have the latest details with the price at $1.75 and programs going in, programs still coming out. How can they still do that if they're setting up for a vote? I'll explain why this looks a little convoluted, but it's all deliciousness, and it's part of a plan to get people locked down to a position. Student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven, and then the big COLA raise. It's a big noontime and a lot of breaking news. I'm really excited you're here. We're live. We're in Santa Monica. And this, my friends, is noontime. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want you part of this incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video and consider becoming a member. 3 weeks ago, a House subcommittee passed a $3.5 trillion recall, now reduced to $1.75, that'll pay you about $15,000. Yes. When third stimulus became a law, I looked at the third stimulus and I said I can get you about $15,000 across the programs of that third stimulus. The viewers of this channel have now got on average $45,000 from that third stimulus, and later in this video I'm going to show you how to get that money as well. But as I look at the current RECON with all these clusters of checks, it pays out about $15,000 for viewers of this channel. It's 3 clusters of checks, and we can go over the status of each of those clusters of checks right now. And the situation is very fluid with checks coming in and checks coming out, and we have add-ons as well. Here we go with the first cluster, and it is hazard pay. Everything in the first cluster passed in that subcommittee is stayed in there. Great news. Hazard pay. My essential workers will get another year of those hazard pay checks. Then the elder care. If you care for an elder, you'll get a $4,000 check. And then also if you care for a young child. Home repairs, they got that in there as well. If you live in a low-income community, you'll get checks for free home repairs. Then the CTC broadened that for 1 more year. If you have a child, you'll get a $3,600 or $3,000 check if you're a low-income family. Then they got money in there for the Pell's grant made tax-free. College students will get a $550 check. And then if you want to buy a car, truck, or electric vehicle, money for that as well. 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike, U.S. auto manufactured, and $7,500 for a new electric car, a little bit more if it's for business use. That first add-on, what's its status? It's the $25,000 from Maxine Waters for the purchase price of your first home. That did not get in there. That did not survive, but the other provisions from Maxine Waters did. $175 billion for housing aid in this RECON compared to the third stimulus, which had $47 billion. Let's go to the second atom of home repairs. You just saw one. This one, another round, and this one is for weatherize your home. Let's go over the cluster second cluster checks, and let's see what happened with these. So the cluster for that includes the weatherize your home survived, tuition-free community college out, checks for pre-kindergarten in there. Then they got checks in there for the household tax credit, the child care tax credit, but paid leave and family leave likely to still go in there. Not in there formally yet, but legislators believe it's going in there. That would be a lot. That would be upwards of $1,700 a week and up to 4 weeks potentially. Yeah, that's thousands of dollars. Let's go to the second add-on, and it got in there. That second add-on is a payment that would go to the state and local that then offer you a free service. And what would be the free service? This is paid medical home assistance. If you're a senior or person on disability, they will provide you home health care for the first time ever. It's huge. Not going to be at $250 billion. That was the price point proposed by Senator Bob Casey, but a little bit less. It's great news as well. Let's go to the third cluster checks and see the status of those. Stay with me later in this video. I'm going to go over each of these checks, how you get them, what the numbers, and how it works. Free school meals for all checks. Well, they got those checks in there as well, and that includes checks when you're not in school. That would be $65 a month. Then cheaper prescription medication, they got that in. Immigration reform, it's in, but may come out. Farmers, I don't know. Free internet, I don't know. Clean energy, out. Workers, independent contractor, I don't know, meaning these are things that were in there. I don't know if they're still in there. And then the hearing, they got that in there, but not yet the dental and vision. Let's go over all those details. I know that was a lot. That's that third cluster. So the hearing got in there, not the dental and vision, believed to go in there. I have that late in this video. And then the immigration reform in there, but likely to be removed by the Senate parliamentarian by the end of the week. I have more about that detail in just a second. If the Senate parliamentarian takes it out, then guess where that money can be reallocated to? Potential MSC IRS monthly stimulus check. The MSC IRS monthly stimulus check not in the recon at the moment, but guess what? There's a lot you're going to see in this recording from those senators that says, I have a lot of stuff to add to this recon. And for the first time, you're going to really see that now they want to put the vote very quickly to get people to say, do you want to put it in there or not? Just sort of step forward and put things in there. The MSC could be added in several places. First, it could be added before we have a House vote, but after we have a House bill. Or it could be added during the Senate steps. Now, for the first time in this recording, you're going to see a new nuance, which is there is a lot of senators coming forward and saying, I got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of work to do in this recon. House members, you think it's where it is. I have a lot of stuff to do. And this may signal that maybe the legislation might go to a Senate subcommittee before Senate Vote-A-Rama, if there is so much. Remember, Senate Vote-A-Rama is 2 days, and the Senate Vote-A-Rama has the opportunity to put things in there, but they also have the opportunity if it goes to a Senate subcommittee because they have a lot more than 48 hours of work to do. Who's in charge of the Vote-A-Rama? Chuck Schumer. Who's in charge of whether it goes to a Senate subcommittee? Chuck Schumer. And who says he's going to give you a monthly IRS stimulus check? Chuck Schumer's office. Said it to Debbie Applegate, said it to another viewer, said it to Donnie's wife, and then sent it to Donnie as well. And we have Casey, Coons, Warren, Sanders, Schumer's telling thousands of viewers over the last few months they're inserting it in there. They're senators. We've had House members say it as well, but the senators are the most overwhelming of the equation. In the second half of this video, you're going to see why that the situation seems convoluted, but not. That they want to call a vote on something that's not ready yet. Yeah, I'll explain to you why this is a new twist at noontime. But the incredible message, of course, comes from the number one legislator for this recon. And his message from the chief of staff is you need to advocate. Americans may see in print media them talking about the American petition. That's 2 million petitions. That's 2 million. We got 3 million. We're heading to 4 million. We got a lot more than they do. The incredible message from that chief of staff is the American petition doesn't tell the legislators why people need the money. LATE viewers, your advocacy is telling them. Let's read the message. They now have in total between congressional and senatorial offices more context of advocacy from the LA Purple Power than the number of signatures in the American petition. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories. Now they have more than what was been called a bunch of signatures. What they have now is a better understanding of what average Americans are trying to make it through this pandemic because of the LA viewers. They have heartbreaking stories in the viewers, and they have the voice of the people across the nation in you, LATE. as you have become too loud to be ignored. Very, very kind. Let's read that last sentence on air because it concerns both you and I. And Jennifer was in the live chat on Mornings LA. She said, have you called today? Who have you called yet? Absolutely. Continue to call. Please continue your encouragement for the continued advocacy as a professional voice of the people you have become, and continue this in LA until this becomes law. Very, very kind. You see a quote that I delivered to you 48 hours ago, where Bernie Sanders says, I spent Wednesday to Sunday to get this provision in the RECON. And it got in there. In the second half of this video, you're going to see the provision that got in there and why the number one guy in the RECON, he had to advocate. One person in the morning's chat that says, why advocate? Because this is where negotiations are. And negotiations are about adding the incredible stuff across the board. In the second half of this video, we're going to go over this historic deal that was reached last night. A provision that has never been in the landscape of this country for 20 years. Who got it? Joe Biden. Who did not say his importance in the negotiations? Joe Biden. But I'm going to explain to you what happened and why this is a historic day for my seniors. Then a vote is happening. Nancy Pelosi's representative vote will be happening for your RECON by the end of this week. Whoa. How can they do a vote if the RECON is still in flux? I'll explain the details. The price is right, 1.75. And what is familiar and similar between Joe Manchin's messaging and mine? I'll explain to you in the second half of this video. Programs in, programs out, more programs will be going in. I'll explain which ones are more likely. And then student loan debt could go by executive order, not by the RECON. Those details in war. And then we turn to fifth stimulus, the exciting details of fifth stimulus. As we go into a big afternoon to LA broadcast, we have a lot coming and a lot happening. You're going to see in the next 48 hours are going to be really big. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on Mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica. And the excitement continues right now, direct from Santa Monica, as a deal's happening with this RECON that'll pay you upwards of $15,000 of stimulus checks across several programs. In the second half of this video, we'll be going over the checks that you should be anticipating. Then the vote. A vote will be happening on the RECON, and that vote, why, how? I'll explain the details and how they do this. Then the price is right, 1.75, but why is it not 300 trillion? Strange number? I'll explain what's going on. Programs in, programs out. The latest details as transformative, life-changing program was announced yesterday. All the latest rundown on that. Student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven across the board. Whose debts? This could come by executive order. And then the COLA rise, the big COLA rise across the board. Well, get ready for fifth stimulus right behind that. And this is for my seniors, SSI and SSDI, Social Security Railroad benefits. We got a big afternoon's recording and a big noontime. And this is LA, live from Santa Monica. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. because this was the channel that got Americans $45,000 from third stimulus when other people was just focused on a stimulus check. When it turns to fourth stimulus, much the same. And in the second half of this video, you're going to learn how to get both sums of money, because guess what? Third stimulus is still paying that money. Like this video and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Pals, VIP. Let's turn to the incredible details right now as the president did it. And the details start with that big deal that happened overnight. Let's step back a notch. The President of the United States on Wednesday of last week started the day with one provision in the RECON, which was cheaper medication if you're on Medicare Part B, which is seniors medicine for people like diabetics, insulin, and that type of medication. Very expensive. Got it for lower medication for them, but not enough. In the months going into last Wednesday, Kyrsten Sinema, the senator from Arizona, was not in favor of any cheaper medication reform. Why? Let's step back. Medicare, under the last 20 years, was unable, due to its charter establishment, to negotiate the price of your medication if you're a senior. So if the pharmaceutical companies want to charge $100, you're stuck with the price tag. That's what it is. Medicare had no charter establishment by its creation for 20 years to be able to negotiate one piece of medication. And as Bernie said over the weekend, every year we go year after year and we say we're going to take care of it. We haven't taken care of it. With 50 lobbyists from the big pharma trying to block it. It changed on Wednesday, when Kyrsten Sinema, who is the person who is blocking it, the progress from happening, had a phone call from Joe Biden. And Joe Biden got her to agree to massive reform of the Medicare system that would allow Medicare to have cheaper medication costs for you as seniors. This was the biggest day of the RECON. And unfortunately, someone in the press group of the White House thought that he should run climate as his press for the next 24 hours and didn't cover that. That was the transformative day because of Kyrsten Sinema. The next morning, Thursday came, and he announced the RECON. He did not mention cheaper prescription medication in there, causing confusion. The reason why we now learn is because there was no formal yet deal on what to do, just that it was no longer going to be blocked. And that caused confusion with Bernie Sanders and other people saying, I'm working on it. Everyone worked, and I detailed who it was from Thursday all the way to yesterday to get it done. And then yesterday I broke the news. For the first time in the history of this country, Medicare will have cheaper prescription medication costs for you as seniors. Let's go over the specifics details of it right now. It is huge. For the first time in 20 years since its creation, pharmaceutical companies have laws. They will no longer be forced to tell Medicare, this is the price, pass the cost over to the senior. They will have to negotiate with Medicare on 30 medications through the year 2028, and will not be able to raise the price after they're negotiated past the inflation rate of 2021. The statement from Senator Ron Wyden, is that for the first time, the government will no longer have its hands tied behind its back. This is a real signal of progress. This will involve Medicare D and Medicare B for the first time of its creation in 20 years. During those 20 years, Big Pharma has blocked every attempt to allow Medicare to be able to negotiate a cheaper price. For example, the new price will be $35 per dose for insulin, one of the most expensive type of medication out there. A cap on many type of products, and then the most expensive products like cancer and arthritis medication coming down dramatically in Medicare B and D. Chuck Schumer said, we have heard from people around the country that serious illness cannot afford their medicine. Today, we have never stepped forward in helping alleviate the problem. It's not everything we wanted, but it's a big step. And it's the first step because they're likely to reform this as time goes on. Here's a little bit more about how this works. Dick Durbin says that this is a step in the right direction. And Scott Peters, Democrat from California, said this is going to be really good for seniors. Jan Skowkowski, who's a Democrat representative from Illinois, says she's very proud of this moment, despite the powerful influence that Big Pharma tried for 20 years to prevent yesterday from ever happening. And Kristen Sinema even came out and applauded the moment. This was resulting in not just Medicare having cheaper costs, but you having cheaper costs. Now, seniors who do not have a limit on the amount of money to spend will have big savings for them across the board. There you go. A transformative day for a program that is going into the RECON. Now, you may wonder, okay, so wait a second. You said they're calling a vote on the RECON. This is very peculiar. How can they call the vote on the RECON if they're still working on stuff? I'll explain that in a second. But let me go to this next item they're working on, the next three items, so you get a sense of why a deal is happening and why they're doing two things at the same time. Normally a little bit strange, but in this recording, I'll explain the details. So, what is the next program that is likely or potentially to go in there? SALT. This is the cap on state and local tax deduction. Very important if you're in big states like California, New York, New Jersey, Florida, or Texas. The proponent, Gothenheimer, House moderate Democrat. And he wants it in there. It's a very beneficial provision that helps a lot of people. After that, what's the next provision likely on the going in there is the paid leave. It's currently not in there. The opponent is Joe Manchin. His statement is it would cost companies too much money. Companies in the United States are not competitive with world companies because every country has this except our country. Kristen Gillibrand and Patty Murray says it's downright shameful that Americans are the only developed country where this does not exist. What is paid family leave and medical leave? Let's do the calculation. It's a lot of money. It's approximately $1,700 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year. It is $800 a week if you make approximately $35,000 a year. It is $400 a week if you make approximately $15,000 a year. How many weeks? Well, at least 4 weeks. So that's several thousands of dollars of checks directly to you. Federal government pays it to the employer who then pays it directly to you. What is it for? Your wife is pregnant, giving birth to your first son. Check to you. Your son is broke his leg. You have to stay home from work. Check to you. It's likely this is going to go in. And there brings us to the question of the vote. So how can they have a vote if there's such a fluid situation on putting provisions in or out? You're going to see a little bit more about this later in this video, but let me explain to you what's brand new today. What's brand new today is that legislators like Bernie Sanders are saying, if you don't support the provision, then let's just call for a vote and let's see you vote against it. What is he doing? He's basically, for the first time, calling people's bluffs. Let me show you why he's doing this. We have the Goth Gang, who are supporters of Gothenheimer, who says on the House side, among us House member Democrats, we will vote against the RECON if there is no SALT in there. Number two, we have certain House Democrats that say, I'm going to vote against the RECON if there's no paid leave in there. Do I think that Gothenheimer is going to do that? I don't know. Do I think the SALT people are going to do that? Do I think the paid leave people are going to do that? No. Then we have a whole other group of people. Which one are they about? The immigration reform. Immigration reform currently in there. Immigration reform likely to be removed by the Senate parliamentarian by the end of this week. If that's the case, the money could be reallocated to other things like an MSCR, a stimulus check. But here's the equation, is that currently there are House members who says, I will vote against the RECON if it does not have immigration reform in there. But by comparison, there are more Democrats in the House, reportedly, who will vote against the RECON if immigration reform is included. So this is why people are now saying, you know what? If you have something to say, just say it, and we're going to call a vote. I want to see you vote on it, yes or no. It also tees up the whole equation of the amendments. I have more about that in a second. But now you see why the legislation may not look complete to you, but the vote is still happening at the same time. With Nancy Pelosi representing, the vote could happen as early as this week. Price right. Price is 1.75. Price is right. And for the first time, you're really seeing that Joe Manchin and I are talking about the same thing. Over the weekend, you saw in my recordings that I said, there's something going on here that doesn't make sense. Why are these articles from broadcast media using the word permanent programs? life-changing programs, generational programs. I don't have that here in my notes. I show the programs are running for 12 months. Who told them it was permanent? And I kept on saying, is it the broadcast media or is it the White House? Well, here's what happened at that time. I said, the legislation is currently in the subcommittee of the House. Nancy sent it to what's called the Rules Committee for them to look at the markup of a draft of the legislation, the bill, and also sent it over to the senators. 2 days later, about Monday, Joe Manchin said, I have a problem. This is not 1.75. This is something other than 1.75. And guess what's happening? Let me go through the details with you right now so you get a sense of where things are happening. What's going on is that there is an attempt to potentially make programs permanent, not 1 year, and that's not exactly where we were. The RECON needs a lot of work. And that a lot of work signals that that work may be done on the Senate side, not the House side. Before we get to the programs, let me go to that vote. The vote on the House side is because the House members see it's the senators who are making the major changes still to the legislation. Bernie Sanders on Friday said, this is the best bill since the 1960s, but has a lot of major gaps in there. And then we had Ron Wyden who says, it's not a done deal to the Senator's Act. He's a senator. He says, in fact, there's a significant amount of work to still do. The senator's comments continue to come on in by the minute. Chris Coons saying there will be dozens of proposals. We have Jalapal saying that senators are texting me around the clock about negotiating. AOC talking about negotiating. Debbie Stable now, who's a senator as well from Michigan, saying that there will be changes. We have Chuck dealing with the potential of the changes from the Senate parliamentarian. And we have Senator Chris Murphy talking about the changes that will be happening across the board. Changes, Senate. Not particularly on the House side, which is why the legislation may get sent by Chuck Schumer to a Senate subcommittee before vote-a-rama, if there is so many changes to go across the board. But now let's go back to that Price is Right, 1.75, and understand that 1.75 involves many of the programs running 1 to 2 years. Well, what happens if the programs are 10 years? What happens if the programs are 20 years? The RECON is not 1.75. It then becomes 175 or 200 or $300 trillion. Yeah, it is no joke. Somewhere in the language, Joe Manchin saw the same thing I was warning over the weekend, that this language does not match my notes. And he said it does not match what he negotiated. So let's go over those programs one at a time. Let's look at the checks that you get, there are lots of them, and let's go over if there's something that was wrong and whether the wrong language came from the White House or broadcast media. It may have come from the White House. So pre-kindergarten. If you have a pre-kindergarten child, you'll get checks for 1 year for pre-kindergarten, totally free for 3 to 4 year olds. Next. The CTC will be extended for 1 year, the child tax credit. So you'll get either $3,600 or $3,000 paid over monthly for 1 year. Okay, here comes the first question. Why is broadcast media saying the eligibility is up to a family of who makes $150,000? That's not in my notes. I don't have that in my notes. That's almost 3 times the number in my notes. Something wrong. But if that's not obvious, then after we look at the earned income tax credit, my essential workers, you're getting that for 1 more year, we get to the home health care. Listen to this sentence and see what's wrong in this sentence from broadcast media, which may be coming from the White House. The framework calls for permanently improving Medicaid for home services for seniors and people with disabilities. No, it's not permanent. It's 1 or 2 years. You saw that graphic earlier in this video where I talked about $250 billion that Bob Casey went. They got it at 175. 175 is 1 or 2 years of the home health care, not 20 years. 20 years would be $200 trillion just for this program. 30 or 40 years would be $500 trillion just for this one program. It's just, it's jaw-droppingly incorrect. So the question is, air by broadcast media or the White House? It's potential. It's the White House, because this is where Joe Manchin's saying, this looks like these programs are running forever. I didn't agree to these programs running forever. Hearing services covered under Medicaid. Then we got money in there for those home repairs. Let's go over those details as well. $150 billion to expand affordable housing. This is construction, rehab, improvements of more than 1 million homes. Then college students will get $550 of checks to them, with a Pell Grant adding $550 to it. And then if you for children in school will get free school meals, but when not in school, they will get $65 checks per month for them as well. So what provisions are still missing, and which provisions can still go in? Well, we started yesterday with prescription medication out. Now it's in. In addition to the ones we went over just a second ago, the next ones that are likely to go in as well are the vision or the dental. Bernie Sanders on Friday said, first, we need people being ripped off by pharmaceutical companies paying 10% more for prescription medication than other countries, with 15 paid lobbyists blocking this legislation for 20 years. They got that done in the last 24 hours. So the next stop will be, for Bernie, certainly, teeth in your mouth, as he says, and hearing aids, which they have in there at the moment, and then also the vision. So let's go over the numbers on this one, because this one is a lot of checks and also doesn't make sense. Most expensive? Dental, then hearing, then vision. Let's start with vision. Vision, vouchers, $50 a year for eye exam, and then $100 for new glasses. That's how they can do it. It's very simple. Why not do it? Does not cost a lot of money, and helps millions and millions of seniors, because a lot of seniors have glasses, wear glasses. Not particularly difficult, not particularly expensive. It's the cheapest of the programs. Why is it not in there? It makes no sense. Then, hearing. They got hearing in there, so you'll get checks for free hearing aid, but there's less seniors who need hearing aids than seniors who need eyeglasses. Which brings us to the last step, the which is the dental. This is very peculiar. They originally started with Sanders and the president looking for 10 years of dental. Too expensive. Then they brought it down to 3 years of dental. Still too expensive. So finally they said, let's just do vouchers. The word voucher means a check. It means a check right to you, in the mail to you. How much? $800 a year, check to you. Senior on Medicare. For what? Dental. Yeah. So this seemed logical, even though I did not like it because it wasn't enough. $800 is like half a tooth in Los Angeles for dental work, but it's better than nothing. And then suddenly gone. Does not make sense. So this provision likely to be a big battleground by Bernie, and you're not likely to see the battleground stop today. Which brings us then to the next part of the equation, which is, are things inconsistent? Are things just not lining up? Let's go over a little bit more about the programs and the numbers, and let's see how they compare versus my notes. So, child tax credit. I show it at 1 year, $60,000 or less if that's your annual income. And that would be $3,600 or $3,000 checks. I showed them trying to negotiate to do it at $110,000 if it was running for 4 years. So why is print media or the White House saying $150,000 eligibility? I don't think that was accurate. I don't think that's what the Democrats agreed to. Community college out. Then the Pell Grant, you saw that, $550 checks to the college students. Then you saw about the hearing in there and the push to get dental in there and vision. The dropping the Medicare eligibility age from 65 to 50 or 55, I don't think that's happening. I don't see that in there. They did broaden it across the 50 states due to Raphael Warnock and Claiborne's great work on the back end. Which brings us to paid leave. Here we go. Let's look at how paid leave works with those numbers. 12 weeks for everyone, self-employed and even gig workers, decade, all income levels, price tag $500 billion. So they couldn't do that. It was basically everyone that works of all income levels, 12 weeks. So that was from Pelosi. So she then defaulted back to 4 weeks, low income, but not self-employed, just W-2s, $100 billion. That's cheap. $100 billion is the cheapest price tag of any program in this RECON. 4 weeks works. 4 weeks low income. How much is that? That's thousands of dollars of checks directly to you. So, for example, let's say you make $14,000 a year. Let's say you make $14,000. Let's say you make $35,000 a year. That'd be about $600 a week, $800 a week times 4. That's $3,200 of checks. That's thousands of dollars of checks with paid leave. I think they're going to get it in. There's too many top people. And this was a campaign promise by the president. Then, child care. they got it in there. They got clean energy out. Health insurance, they got in there by expanding it, but not as many weeks as they were like. And then they got the housing aid in there. Boy, in a second, you're going to see the new success stories as viewers are getting more money. The average viewer has gotten $45,000 from third stimulus. And viewers are getting more money this last week. Told viewers, send me private messages on Instagram or social media, and I'm going to have them for you. But that was under third stimulus. Third stimulus is $47 billion. How much is fourth stimulus, which includes housing aid and housing repairs? $175 billion. Whoa, this is great news. And then the in-home healthcare. Here we go. $100 to $200 billion for the home healthcare services. That's 1 or 2 years. You call the word permanent, put another zero behind it, it becomes $1 trillion. There's something strange, and that's why Joe Manchin caught it. Which brings us then to the other details of how this comes together. I'm going to show that to you in a second, and the latest comments about Bernie and my personal opinion about it, my commentary. But for a brief moment, let's turn over to student loan debt forgiveness. More debt could be forgiven by executive order. The president has proposed to do executive order of $10,000 student loan debts, and the Democrats should take it. He first forgave student loan debts for people who became disabled after graduation. Then the president forgave student loan debts for people who went to work in the nonprofit sector for 10 years after graduation. But the big winner was forgiving student loan debts for people who went into public service, city, county, state, federal government for 10 years after graduation. All your debts have been forgiven. Remember, the vote-a-rama on the Senate in third stimulus is what helped you for this. Why? Because let's say you work for the county and you had $30,000 of student loan debt. It's now forgiven. But had they not done a vote-a-rama for third stimulus in January this year, you would have to pay upwards of $15,000 cash out of your pocket to IRS. What happened? Chuck and Liz Warren put a provision during the vote-a-rama, that's why the vote-a-rama is so important in the Senate, that says forgiveness of student loan debt is no longer a taxable IRS event. Big, great details. Now let's turn to the exciting details of fifth stimulus. And boy, fifth stimulus is going to be right behind COLA. Have you gotten that letter? Yeah, your benefits are going up 5.9% approximately next year. If you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, wearable benefits, but get ready because fifth stimulus could be right behind it. Fifth stimulus is the raising up of your benefits if you're on those benefits. And it is great. Step one, they're going to raise everyone's benefits up one time. Step two, apply a new benchmark, inflation, starting in December 2022. That new benchmark is going to be at least 3% next year, while COLA may be 0. Let's do the analysis. First, they'll raise you up starting in January under COLA with that new raise of 5.9. Then they'll get you one raise up under fifth stimulus. And then if they apply the benchmark, you'll get a new benchmark raise next December. They're going to move the asset cap, dating back to a 1980s law, remove the income cap, dating back to a 1960s law, and remove the marriage penalty. And love is going to win, and you'll be able to do a pair dance and get married to your longtime love interest like Rob and Sandy, and no longer fear loss of benefits. Finally, if you haven't become a member, what are you doing? The membership link is under the video. Consider becoming a member today because there is where the money is. Under third stimulus, the average viewer of this channel has gotten $45,000. If you haven't, consider becoming a member today, but get ready with that pen and paper because I'm going to show you the details starting right now. And the great news is that third stimulus is back in on the channel, and I'm going to go over the money for rent, utilities, food, and internet mortgage assistance starting right now. First, rent is still paying new rounds. Here was what the rent was paying about 2 months ago. The rent is now going up to about $30,000, $40,000. And the money is important to understand that people are getting their third round of these items on this channel. Yeah, so I have viewers who got this rent back in December 2020. They got some in spring of 2021. Now they're getting some got in the summer 2021. Now they're getting it in fall 2021. Utilities, the numbers are going up across the board. Here you go. Mark's brother-in-law got $15,000 for utilities. I'll give you the latest success stories in just a second on air. SNAP is money for food. You want to get it. And I have viewers like Mark's brother-in-law is getting $25,000 a year for SNAP because of the recording of this channel. Then you want to get multiple sums of money. So reach out to all the different places across the board. Here are my combo people. $32,000 for them. Here's Mark. He's nearly at $100,000 from this channel now. Here's Lorraine. She's nearly at $120,000. So when you reach out to your city, when you reach out for the rent, you're going to do City Hall, City House Authority, County Hall, County House Authority, State Hall, and State House Authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage utility assistance because of COVID. And you want to read that statement from Treasury in the newsletter before you make the phone call so you know exactly what this money is. Here come our new success stories. I'm really excited for you. And the first one I really like. It's totally different because it shows the person listened to the recording but went a little bit beyond stuff that I even cover. Nicole. Here's what Nicole says. Hey, LALATE, my family and I had some time today over the last few weeks, so I wanted to share this with you. And yeah, there's still a lot of money out for third stimulus. We got some. We got $1,500 from a local nonprofit, plus Christmas assistance for our children, plus $5,000 to pay for our delinquent medical bills, plus $10,000 in SNAP, plus $7,000 in state pandemic relief for rent and utilities. Thank you so much for everything you have done and continue to do. You are a breath of fresh air and so much of a blessing to us. Forever grateful, Nicole. Very, very kind. So I like her message because she went a little bit beyond. I always talk about the nonprofits, but she used the nonprofits to pay medical bills. And I like she got a nonprofit to help with Christmas assistance for our children. I don't know if that's toys or what it is, but she's $1,500, so it may have been real cash. Then remember Mark? Yeah, here's Mark with the latest update. I got another round of utilities, $19,500, and I got my SNAP lifted to $28,000. That exemplifies what you can do. You can get another round of utilities. You saw him in the early graphic. I think he had $5,000 of utilities. He got another round. Now it's $19,000. And SNAP, imagine his family will be getting $28,000 over the next 10 years because of this channel. That is $280,000 because he watched LALATE. Finally, with my message across the board is vote and a deal and negotiations all at the same time. It may look really queer. It may look very confusing. It may look very complicated. So let me explain the details for you starting right now. The details are that basically for the first time ever, you have Bernie Sanders saying, I'm going to call your cards. I'm going to call your bluff. Are you going to really vote against it? Let's start with the quote so I explain what's going on and why this makes sense. He says that, Bernie Sanders, in a new quote today, the following, that the time has dragged on, and I think it's time to put it to a floor vote. If people want to vote against it, they have that right. The issue is whether Joe Manchin will come up and vote for the legislation that helps people. If he's going to vote, is he going to vote yes or is he going to vote no? Then comes a series of new reports today about Manchin. Let me put those both in perspective together. Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema. The big change is that Kristen Sinema is no longer opposing the RECON. That's why that phone call from the President of the United States was so important last Wednesday for getting her to agree on cheaper medication. That was her holdout. She's done. She's fine with the RECON. She's no longer equation. So Bernie is not referring to her. Who he's referring to? He's referring to everyone else. Joe Manchin, if you've been on this channel for the last 10 years, if you've watched him for the last 10 years, I've been on the channel for the last 10 months, he often says, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this. But when you call the vote, he votes in favor of it. So Bernie's saying, we just can't sit around and keep on saying we don't like things. Just call for a vote. If you don't like it, raise your hand. And guess what? If someone doesn't like it, then we go amend it. Let's stop amending things to wait for a vote. Just call the vote. Very good, interesting approach to it. It also solves the equation of the goth gang. Are you going to oppose the RECON if SALT is not in there? The other people say, I'm going to oppose it unless paid leave is in there. Fine, call the vote. This is what's very fascinating, is that you have House members whose priority is running the House. And then you have senators who are taking the lead. The senators are writing the legislation. They are making the changes. They started Thursday last week and brought it all the way up to yesterday to get prescription medication in there. It was the senators like Coons, Casey, Warren, Sanders, Summers, and that told viewers over the last few weeks that they're inserting a monthly IRS stimulus check on the Senate side. And you see Ron Wyden saying, hey, we got a lot of work to do still. We have Bernie Sanders says there's major gaps in this RECON. The way you do those gaps, the senators. The people negotiating, the senators. And the way you can do it, very, very fluid. Ultimately, Votorama is 2 days. Subcommittee of the Senate could be more than a few days. If you got a lot of provisions to add, then send it to the subcommittee. And ultimately, who determines that? Chuck Schumer. He's the only one who determines what goes on in his Senate. Very, very fascinating across the board. And the great news is that you really look at this recon. You look at the positioning of the different people. And where I see at the moment is the following. Chris and Sinema not opposing it. I'm not really worried about the goth gang. I'm not really worried about the immigration battleground or the paid leave battleground. And what remains is just getting things in there and figuring out where they are. And ultimately, if you call the vote and you say no, then you say, okay, why no? Let me go back and change it. And you make the change and you're ready to rock and roll. You saw the developing details of yesterday, and those developing details of yesterday showed that Americans won progress. And some of the comments coming in today from Democrats is that the challenge is that we laid out a popular agenda with the American people, and it has not yet been passed, says Representative Don Beyer, who is a Virginia Democrat. He's a representative from Virginia. A lot of people are talking today about that we have to show we can govern, we can pass legislation. Representative Scott Peters, again, from Democrat California. The picture of the Democrats is that we are sparring amongst ourselves. Not a good look. Nancy was very, very keen on that look in 2020. Remember? She never wanted to show Democrats fighting with each other. We have the ability to focus and govern, and I think we should focus on it. And I think that is why a vote looks good. It looks, hey, we got a vote done. Now let's get another vote done. You want to make a change? Let's make a change. And that's how things progress. It may seem weird that provisions are still in flux, that modifications are still happening. But when you do it in the context of where it's going, it gets people going. And that is good news. And we will see if that vote happens. If you've been with this channel over the last 2 months, Pelosi calls votes usually on Thursday nights. She generally calls votes on Thursday nights. A lot of insiders say she flies out of D.C. on Thursday, comes home to California, and flies back on Sunday night. Maybe, I don't know. But she called the infrastructure for a vote on Thursday night in September. She attempted to call for a vote on Thursday night in October, but she didn't. So Thursday night is when she likes to call for votes. The next 24 hours, folks, is going to be very, very heated. Meantime, I'm very much aware that Nancy Pelosi had quotes before Halloween, and Jalopal had quotes before Halloween. Those quotes were not in the context of where Jalopal and the progressives are right now. They're no longer blocking things. They're calling for things to happen and those votes to happen as well. We'll have more about those details coming up next at 3 o'clock afternoons LA. Then at 5 o'clock afternoons LA, we have a big show tonight. And the part of the excitement is the new binge block here on LA. 3 hours of shows. You sit back and one show takes you to the next. The 5 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, and the 7 o'clock shows on this channel. Evenings Countdown, and Stream Stimulus. And with that, subscribe. 400,000 subscribers, a YouTube record. I want your positive, incredible family. Hit that subscribe button right now. Like the video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Stay informed, stay focused, and I'll see you on the 1 o'clock show. This video will automatically take you there.